I did not think the video from yesterday would generate so much interest, and thank you to Joseph for his question. Let's address it and talk about another interesting story. In medieval Castile, Jewish money lending was not simply a private business, it was one of the financial pillars of the monarchy. Because canon law forbade Christians from charging interest, the crown relied on Jews to lend money with interest, and then the crown taxed that interest as royal revenue. In other words, the king earned money every time a Jew collected interest from a Christian. So there were two debts, always chained together. Christians owed principal plus interest to Jews, and Jews owed tax on that interest to the king. If a Christian defaulted, the crown still expected its tax, not from the Christian, but from the Jew. And that is the pressure that eventually breaks the system. For years, this was managed through local negotiation. If a Christian couldn't repay on time, he offered a small installment, called a señal, to buy more time. Jews often accepted because peace with neighbors mattered more than squeezing repayment. But near the end of the 13th century, the crown disrupted that local balance. Royal entregadores, debt collectors, replaced municipal mediation. Once that happened, señales no longer paused repayment. Instead, they merely delayed the Jew's ability to meet his obligation to the king. The crown got its tax no matter what, even if the Christian paid back his loan. This brings us directly to Miranda de Ebro, in the north of Spain. By 1296, the Jews of nearby Aro were being pressed by the royal treasury for taxes on interest they had not yet received. They were owed money from Christians in Miranda, but they could not collect it locally because the town council shielded the debtors. Without that money, they would appear to the crown as delinquent taxpayers. So the Jews took a drastic step. They shut the gates of the Juderia, the Jewish quarter, and refused entry to the royal tax collector. Not in rebellion, in fear. This was to signal that the system was broken. The crown reacted immediately. Royal officials stormed into Miranda, seized the contracts, and issued a shocking order. All interest was to be canceled, también del logro como de la ganancia, and only the principal was to be confiscated, directly for the king. In that moment, Joseph's question about usury is answered by the documents themselves, because interest is singled out, named, and erased. If there had been no interest, there would have been nothing to cancel. But this solution was catastrophic. The Christian debtors lost nothing but their paperwork. The king walked away with the principal, and the Jews, the original lenders, were left with neither repayment nor revenue, but still carried responsibility for the tax tied to that interest. After 1296, trust shattered. Christians saw royal protection for evasive debt. Jews saw their livelihood emptied out from underneath them. The town council saw its local authority bypassed by the king. And once negotiation gave way to confiscation, there was no mechanism left to rebuild trust. Everything after, the protests, the petitions, the attempts to block entregadores, the appeals to fueros, the widening hostility, was fallout from this single structural collapse. The massacre of the Jews of Miranda in the 1360s was not a sudden outburst of hate. It was the final stage of a 70-year breakdown in which a world built upon negotiated coexistence was replaced by one ruled by royal extraction. This is why Miranda's story matters. It shows that interfaith tension did not begin in sermons or prejudice, but in the moment when the economic framework that made coexistence possible was stripped away. Coexistence was not a feeling, it was a practice, and once that practice died, fear stepped in to take its place.